Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This evening I'm going to be doing another movie review for you all, so hopefully you find this one interesting. This movie is a crime film from Russia, Russian language English subs, released in the year 1997, directed by Alexei Balabanov, and this film is called Brother. So Brother is about a man that's been discharged by the Russian army after his service during the Chechen War. So he's been besieged by violence, he has a lot of trauma, and he wants to make a new life for himself. So he travels to St. Petersburg to meet up with his brother to see if there's any job opportunities. There are job opportunities, but the job opportunities are in the Russian mafia. And so the violence that has besieged him in the past is actually going to catch up with him in the present. So he can't escape the violence, so he decides that he's going to be a hitman just like his brother. So he takes on some jobs, and the further he gets into the Russian world of crime, the more his reputation starts to build. But unfortunately, as his reputation starts to build, so does jealousy, and betrayal soon sets in. That sets off a chaotic chain of events. So what those events are is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on Brother. This is an incredibly interesting film for a number of reasons. Number one, this is said to be not only the best Russian gangster film ever made, but also one of the best gangster films in general ever made. And not many people talk about this movie being a foreign film, and so I thought I definitely have to go and watch this movie. This has been on my radar for the longest time, but it just hasn't been on my must-watch list. Although I love Alexei Balabanov, the director, I had other movies that I needed to watch before I actually tracked this one down and gave it a go. So having that accolade of being one of the best gangster films ever made, I thought, alright, well that is an enticing sort of element, but it's an element that didn't interest me as much as others, because gangster films aren't my speciality. I do like them when they're done properly, but the glorification of the life, in a lot of American films, it just doesn't sit with me very well. And so when I heard that this is a Russian gangster film, I thought, okay, I'm definitely going to go and see it, but when, I didn't know. So I finally tracked down a copy of the DVD, and I was really excited to watch it. So having one of my favourite directors directing a film that has such high acclaim, I thought this is a recipe for success. It also stars Sergei Bodrov, the main character. Now, tragically, he was killed in an avalanche soon after this film was released. So that's a tragedy, but that's another interesting element that is thrown into this movie, and so the behind-the-scenes element is just as interesting as the actual movie itself. And so having all of that interest, I thought, alright, I'm definitely going to go and watch this movie this weekend. I finally watched the movie, and I will say that although I appreciated this movie, and it does have a lot of Alexei Balabanov trademark, I felt as though it was incredibly overrated for a strong reasons that I'll go into a little bit later. But what I liked about Brother was the harsh reality of the world that this movie is set in. This is a film that is very, very uneasy. It's a very dirty feeling. It's a movie that does not glorify anything that the world depicts. This is a film about gangsters. This is a film about horrible people doing horrible things to each other. There's no honour, there's no trust, and the whole film just has that impending sense of doom. So this is what Alexei Balabanov does so well. He intensifies that sense of doom through the very low budget that this movie has. It felt very, very realistic, and the violence was very, very hard hitting. It's very, it makes you actually flinch when you actually see what's going on, because it has a strong sense of this is actually happening. So there's no glorification. It's just showing you the ugliness of the world. It's showing you a situation where people are put into desperate measures, and desperate measures call for extreme actions. And those extreme actions, I felt as though these people were doing it against their will because of the situation they all found themselves in. This is the harsh reality of Russia at the time. And so I thought that was really interesting, is that yes, they lived a very harsh life, but the harsh life has been emulated through the sense of violence that this movie captures. So violence captured in a very ugly way is the most respectful way, because it's not a way to live life. But I felt as though these people weren't choosing that life, their life was actually choosing them. And so I always felt as though they were doing it against their will, so that there's no sense of glorification. This is a world that you don't want to be a part of, and Alexei Balabanov is trying to tell you that through the visuals and also the story. The way that this main character has been besieged by violence, violence is always following him. And the destructive nature of violence, not even your family is safe from it. And so it just has that domino effect, and when the domino effect starts to kick in, I thought as that was very interesting. And so how this movie was going to eventuate, I was always wondering. And so because you don't trust anyone in the film, you don't know what's going to happen, and that certain sense of unpredictability just has that chaotic sense about, there is no order in this world. And so that's something that I liked. And so it's a world that's very foreign to me, but it's a world that I don't want to be a part of, and Alexei Balabanov is showing it for the harsh realities that it is. The acting was actually quite decent. I actually thought the side characters coming in the movie evolved the situation to a point, and I like the fact that Alexei Balabanov keeps his trademark. The trademark in Cargo 200, the trademark in Of Freaks of Men. This is, as I said, the harsh underbelly of life. These are the people that have been shunned by society and forgotten forgotten about. And so if you don't see them, it's not really happening. But when you're forced to see them, you realise, okay, this is actually happening and this is absolutely horrible. So horrible things happening on the screen just makes for a really uneasy and very uncomfortable experience, and that's something that you get from this director. So if you're expecting that in Brother, this is something that you're going to be very pleased with. So I thought as though it was a very solid film, but the reason why I didn't love it as much as others, because I couldn't get into the characters. Sergei Bodrov's character, the main character, yes, he was traumatized by war, but there was no access into this world. Because it was so foreign to me, you need a vessel to actually venture through. And so if you have relatable qualities to a character, you can really say to yourself, okay, I see him in me, and therefore I'm going on the ride. But for me, I always felt as though these were characters in a movie. I never felt as though they were real people, because Alexei Balabanov doesn't allow you to access these characters. He doesn't allow you to use them as a vessel to actually experience the harsh doings of this world. So it's a very bleak world, it's a very cold and unforgiving world, but it's a world that has a shield up. And unfortunately, Alexei Balabanov can't break that shield and allow the everyday viewer to really absorb themselves into a world where you can actually relate to. Now, yes, obviously you can't relate to the violence, but just having relatable qualities in characters, I thought as though the characters were very cold. And so yes, that emulates, as I said, living in Russia at the time, and how cold everything was, and it's a world that is very cold. But just having characters that are blank cardboard cutouts, I just felt as though the situation was actually quite three-dimensional, but the characters, I just felt as though they were characters in films, they weren't actually real people. Therefore, I always felt as though the movie is keeping its distance from the viewer and not allowing the viewer to fully absorb themselves into what was going on. So that was my major criticism of the film. Unfortunately, I believe that this is actually quite an overrated movie. I don't feel as though it's the best gangster film ever made. I felt as though this is not even Alexei Balabanov's best movie. His best film, in my opinion, was Cargo 200. Whereas this movie, it does have all the accolades, but I feel as though it is quite overrated, and I didn't enjoy it as much as I really wanted to. So pushing that aside, as I said, the overall visualization of a really destructive world was very impressive. So if you want that kind of thing, go out there and see it, but be careful. All the acclaim that the film has can be quite misleading, and as a result of that, I'm going to give Brother 3 stars. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.